Breaking news. I'm going to read out here, and normally I go off the cuff, but this is too important. I called the government's budget a bin fire in my budget reply speech. Others called it the worst budget in history. Well, guess what? This is worse than the worst budget in history, because the figures that have just come out, they released just before election. It's called a pre-election financial outlook, and the figures are so much worse than what the government included in its budget. Instead of racking up a net operating deficit over the 4 years, 2024 to 2028, of 3.6 billion, in fact, the net operating deficit of that period will be almost double that figure, 6.9 billion in debt. So it's far worse than what was in the budget. So instead of net debt being 9.4 billion by 30th of June 2028, it will be $13 billion. By which time the annual interest repayments on that debt will be $700 million per year. This will reduce the state's ability to manage economic shocks and to provide services to the community in the future. This rate of growth in debt is not sustainable, and the size of the problem will only increase if not addressed. Immediate and sustained action is needed. Both major parties are lockstep with this budget. The Labor Party said it's the worst in history, and we've just found out it's worse than that, but yet they're supporting it. So again, according to Treasury, major policy choices are needed. Future economic growth will not be enough to get us out of this hole. So it's no longer good enough to keep your head in the sand. Action needs to be taken, and both major parties seem to be not prepared to do what is needed. So when you're in a hole, you have to stop digging. In other words, you stop spending money on things we don't need and can't afford, as in this stadium. You know, it is atrocious, the condition we're in, and they're still rolling out election promises. What is it on first home buyers? $30,000 they're offering to first home buyers now when we're in a debt situation like this. And I might add that $9 billion of our current projected debt is through election promises. They haven't learnt their lesson. They're not addressing the elephant in the room and just blindly marching on as nothing else matters. This is absolutely disgraceful. They need to pull their heads in, and more importantly, people need to appoint people or vote for people that are prepared to address this serious situation. And you won't get that with the major parties. They seem to be totally ignorant to this plight that we're in.